All right. So first, I want to start with a general question that I've been asking everyone. When do you feel you're most powerful?
I feel my most powerful when I am doing my creative stuff as far as like TikTok and social media, just because that has been a consistent outlet for me for the past few years. It's always been my escape from the reality of what's going on in my world. So just having that time to show that other side of me and show and embrace the side of me that I'm usually not comfortable with around other people um, is a great sense of power and strength for me because it's definitely something that I'm not normally that person.
Okay, and you're saying that it's not normally like a side of you that you show people. What about that aspect of it is empowering?
Um, for me, I think it is embracing my body, which I'm not always comfortable with, embracing my looks, which I've had some struggles with as far as like family and colorism, and just having that opportunity to showcase that I can be a confident plus size woman, I can be a brown girl, and still do anything and showcase some of the same skills that anybody else, no matter what their demographic is showcasing, and just being comfortable in that. I'm really reserved in real life. I'm very shy. I don't like showing my body. So it's definitely gives me that opportunity to do it in a setting where I'm comfortable.
Because you're in control of what actually is being seen, etc.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can control the narrative. I can control how much skin I show. I can control, even to the aspect of I can control how people respond to it. Whereas, in real life, if you are in front of somebody and you're unclothed, you can't really control how they respond in the moment. Or you show a little something and people say something on the street, you can't control that. But at least with those types of situations, I can control it, and that gives me a lot of confidence because I can control it. Or vice versa, gives me a lot of pause sometimes just because it is out there for the world, and I know I have a side of me that is a professional, and I work in an environment where I am in the minority. And so just being comfortable enough to put it out there. And if work sees it, they see it. If they had something to say, I can tell them my story as to why I do the videos and why I do the TikToks and my backstory of how I got to that place.
Mhm. So in a lot of your TikToks, you're like getting ready to go somewhere or getting dressed.
Yep.
When you're getting dressed, do you have like certain items that make you feel powerful, or like when you put this certain piece of clothing on, you're like, this is the one I'm ready to take today.
I do. So a lot of my videos, I have some Alex and Ani bracelets. I wasn't really a bracelet person until my mom passed away. So I actually bought them when she passed away. So one says mom. Um, they say some other things like to remind me that I am a powerful person and you're stronger than you look, those types of empowering conversations. So I usually try to wear them as much as possible just because I did buy them initially to kind of commemorate my mom, but also because of the messaging around them, just to remember to be strong, even in moments where I tend to be weak or tend to shy away from being strong, and just remember that everything is possible and I'm a lot stronger than I take myself for. Because, with being a resilient person, it's something that you just do on autopilot and you don't really look at it until after the fact. You're like, oh God, how did I get here? How did I get through that? So those things, they just kind of remind me that yes, you've been through some things, you've gotten through them, and just to continue to be strong. And also, like I said, they remind me of my mom.
That's fine. And my condolences to your mother.
Thank you.
So, on the reverse of that, do you have an article of clothing or something that you put on or have put on in the past where you're like, this is not it? I don't want to wear this. I don't like it. Like a lot of people have said, like when they were younger, their
Mhm.
grandparents would make them wear a slip to church or something like that. And they're like, slips should be outlawed. So do you have something that you would be like, if I could, I would banish this?
I would. So I grew up Catholic. My mom was very religious, and so if I would, like, I love a good fishnet, but a regular pantyhose,
Hmm.
throw them in trash. They seem pointless. The fact that as soon as you put them on, they run. And the thing is, my mom wore pantyhose and fishnets until she got sick and couldn't dress herself every day. I'm like, how? So yeah, if I could get rid of something, it would definitely be pantyhose. I don't see the purpose of the point. Even though my mom, anytime I would leave the house bare legs, she was chastising, "Oh, you a floozy." I was like, "Yep." Then that's always and that's always how I knew I was doing something right. As soon as she called me a floozy, I was like, "Yes, I look good. Let me leave."
Right, I'm doing it right.
Right.
I I always thought that pantyhose were like now again, this is not a person who's never had to wear them. So I don't know like, what culturally they mean or anything like that. But I
Hmm.
would assume that pantyhose were like a warmth thing. So
They are thin. They
yeah,
are so thin.
something on your leg
Hmm.
that like your leg is just not like naked.
Yeah, that like as I got older, that's what my mom tried to lean into as to why I should wear pantyhose. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I'm from Ohio. I'm like, I left the house without a coat in
Right.
the winter. So if my top isn't cold, my bottom's not cold. So um they're not really warm. Like I said, I went to Catholic school, so we wear like skirts and uniforms, and my mom would make me wear pantyhose and tights and slips. And I was like, none of this is warm. I was like, just put us because I was lucky enough to go to a Catholic school where we could wear pants. I'm like, just put me in some pants. Why
Right.
why are we here?
Yeah.
But my mom was also wanted me to be a girly girl. So that was a sign of being feminine, wearing pantyhose
Right.
and that type of stuff. And I was like, yeah, no.
So you don't describe you wouldn't say that you like present very feminine?
I feel like I have two sides of me. So the person who goes out and goes to concerts and events and things, she's very girly. But the regular me is a tomboy, regular degular, around the way girl. Um, I think for me, I've fought very hard to kind of present that regular image because as soon as people see that I have a couple letters in front of my name, there's this instant assumption, oh, she's bougie, she's uppity. Oh, she think no, I just happen to be a nerd and I went to school for a while to be a nerd. But the other side of me is somebody who cusses, goes to hip hop shows, raps along with every single word of Biggie, and it's just a tomboy. Like if I'm at home, I'm homeless chic. So I usually when I go out, unless I know I'm going to see somebody, it's still pretty homeless chic. So you're gonna get some leggings, maybe a wig, maybe a head wrap. Yeah, even at work, I don't even dress up. Like my coworkers are really surprised when I'll show them pictures of me going out. Like, who's that? It is because I don't need to look like that at work.
Right. Y'all already know what it is.
Yep.
And I feel that very much so. Like today I left the house like a few times just to do like small errands. And it very much gave if anyone who knew me saw me, they would be surprised.
Yes. I.
Yeah, I was wearing like these shorts that have like paint all over them because I wear them just when I'm painting.
That
Just
makes sense.
a thermal shirt, a humongous coat. Like I was literally just in hiding in plain sight, if you will.
Yeah, that that makes sense. I was actually talking to some friends. We were talking about like going out clothes versus like running errands, and I was like, I run errands and I look like homeless, and I was like, I ran into this person that I had met on a dating site, and he just kept looking like I instantly knew who he was and where I knew him from. But of course, all of my pictures on the dating profile aren't homeless chic.
Right.
So he was just kept looking at me, and I was like, this is what I look every day, sir.
Yep,
We would have been
it
dating, you would have got this 9 times out of 10.
right. Okay. So let's talk about when you feel your least powerful.
Okay. So I feel my least powerful when I have to be vulnerable around people usually around some of my health issues I've had over the last few years. I think I shared the other day that, I had to have a hysterectomy. And so because of that, I can't have kids. And so I'm still at an age where people my age could possibly have kids. So that's one of the conversations where I just feel very vulnerable and exposed. And usually, depending on the person, I tend to shut down because it's not a conversation that I like having. I really just hate it. Even if people understand, the biology and the chemistry and the anatomy of it all, just having that conversation about not being able to have kids and how, it's just a hard conversation. So I'm very cognizant about being vulnerable around people because I don't like when they don't know how to react. So that makes it more uncomfortable for me. So I try to just shut the conversation down or shut the topic down so I don't have to deal with those emotions and feelings.
Yeah. And that's something that, like you said, a lot of people our age are having that conversation more often than not, it seems.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that must be tough. So, when you're in a position where you feel that kind of vulnerability, what are some things that you, or like if you have processes that you put in place to kind of get yourself back to a place of power? What are those processes or ideas or things that you do to help yourself get back to that place?
So one of the things that I've learned is to allow myself to cry. Usually when you feel triggered or these emotions that overwhelm you, we really try to reserve ourselves from showing emotion in that moment. And I've come to the point like, it's gonna come, it's gonna come. I'm like, I'm not about to sit here and stop it. I'm gonna let it happen. I'm gonna process it. And then afterwards, I kind of journal about it, kind of think through like what was the trigger, what, how that made me feel and why I felt that way. And then think about some things on the contrary that are a little bit more positive than what that experience is. Because, with my situation, people are always like, well, you can still have kids. I'm like, yeah, but also I'm still alive. Like there could be so many other things, but just allowing myself to have that moment to actually cry and grieve whatever situation that I'm going through or having those feelings around, and then journaling about it, and then just come back and think of the positives. Like there's so many other things that could have been negative about that situation. I could have needed chemo, I could have needed radiation, I could have lost all my hair. Luckily, none of those things happened. I am still here and I can still move along. I have a good bill of health. So I definitely think of those positive things and not try to dwell on that moment of overwhelming feelings and grief and just a sorrow with the situation.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, I was talking to a friend the other day about crying because it's like we are taught to like not cry, or when you
Mm-hmm.
feel the cry coming on to kind of like try to hold it off or fight it.
Yep.
I remember just maybe like last summer, I like felt myself wanting to cry, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of fighting it or whatever, I just kind of let it happen. And then for like 2 months, any little thing would make me cry.
Yeah.
It was like all the backup cries were like,
Yes.
oh, so it would be like a video
It's,
on Instagram of like somebody coming home from the military and the dog going crazy, and I would just like lose it.
yeah. And I think, it's a floodgate that you open, but once you open it, you feel better afterwards. Like I tell people all the time, especially like when I have friends who like lost a parent after since I've lost my mom, I was like, grief comes in waves, but don't try to fight it because it's not going away. Like I was like, I've been in, I've cried in random places, just over simple things. Like I've cried in Walmart. The poor cashier was like, I don't know what you're going through, but I'm afraid for you. I was like, thanks.
Right.
I've cried in a candy store. I've cried. I've cried on flights. The first flight back to Ohio after my mom passed. I cried when I got to the airport. So I'm like, I could fight it, but what's the point? And I was like, because it's not going to make the situation better, me trying to fight it. And then I realized the more that I do that, it becomes less time. So you said like Like when I was crying I was in checkout lane for at least 10 minutes. I cried the entire time. Whereas now, if I let myself feel it, it's only like a minute or two, and I recompose myself and I go on about my day.
Mhm. That happened to me when I was in Houston. I had just did there was this festival, and my clothing company did like the opening presentation to the festival, and it was the first time I'd ever done something like that, and it was so big to me that it was something that like I achieved on my own, and I did it all by myself. Like I did everything, like the mix, the clothes, like I did every part of it myself, and I even remember like reaching out to people to get help because people always want to tell you you can't do everything yourself.
Yeah.
So I remember reaching out to people, and there were so many people who like said they would help but wouldn't, and it was just like this whole thing. And so right after it happened, I remember getting off stage and going over to my table, and like I was fine. I was like, finally was able to breathe. Like we did
Yep.
it. The hard part is over. And then it was this interviewer from one of the newspapers came over. She was like, "Oh, can I, take a minute to interview you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And she started talking, and I was like, I couldn't hear her because I was literally overwhelmed with like everything just kind of hit me at once.
Yep.
I just started crying, and I remember like I asked her like, can I just, can I just cry for like 2 minutes? I just need like a minute to cry, and she was like, "Oh my god, like do what you have to do." It
Right.
was like I couldn't like hold it, you know what I mean? And then
Yep.
once I started, I kept trying to like reel it in, but it was like getting more intense. So she was like, "I'll just come back," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna just need like maybe 5 minutes to get through this."
But it's a good cry. It's a good cry
Yeah,
because you
because I was
accomplished something.
happy. Yeah, I was happy that like it was able to happen the way it did, and that whatever I was finally over all the hard part of it. But
Yep.
that was the first time I ever really was like crying, and I was like, I just can't even stop myself. You know what I mean?
Yep. I get it. I definitely get it. Like I said, as soon as you open those floodgates, you do that more often, and it gets a little less, and you get a little bit more comfortable in it, and it's not as like embarrassing or like, oh my god, I know people are staring at me. I was like, if you got a problem, you can ask me why I'm crying, and I'm like, I don't have no problem talking to you because I'm a fairly open person when it comes to like my mom and that journey and my health journey and stuff. So I'm like, just ask me why I'm crying. I'll tell you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, outside of what we previously discussed,
Yep.
do you have any spaces or places in your life where you feel that you are arrested, or you're not able to show up 100% as the person you feel you are?
I do. So I've been thinking about this all day just because I realized today, because I had therapy today, that I've been arrested in like most of my life. So in their various stages of my life, either family had a large control over me and what I did and what I said, or my health had a large control over me, what I did, what I said. And so I am 43, and I'm realizing that this will be the first time really in my life going into like 2024 that I feel like I can plan to have a future. Like for the longest, I've been living in like a flight or fight mode. Um, and I've just felt like it's no point in planning anything because there's something always in life that comes and knocks me down when I'm trying to do better or trying to get to that next stage in life. So just really planning and having a life that I can take ownership of and not feel like tomorrow isn't promised, or not feel like if I make a plan, something is going to deter it. Because the reality is, just living day by day and just kind of existing, you're not really living.
Right.
Uh, like I just, because I had a conversation with a friend about a lot of people are always looking for that next thing they're gonna do, that next mountain they're gonna climb, and but for the last few years I haven't had that initiative. I was just like, I'm content, and people make you feel like when you're content that's wrong. It's, oh, you're not trying to get a house, you're not trying to get this next promotion at work. No, I'm
Mm.
good. I'm like, I'm content. But I realize in that contentment, it is kind of like a self-protective thing. It's not like I'm content because life is great and awesome. It's like I'm content because it's easy. I'm content because it doesn't require me to think about what could be or the future or planning for a life outside of work. So just really feeling like I haven't really developed like a lot of other adults have. Like I haven't had a lot of the experiences that people had in their 20s with like relationships and communication and learning how to talk and interact with people. So now at 43, I'm like, I can't keep doing this because if I do, I'm gonna be by myself forever.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I need to work on that. But just going through therapy and helping me kind of process that it's okay to plan for a life even if you don't know what life is going to bring. It's okay to have a game plan. Because I used to, like when I was younger, I had my whole life mapped out. But then, things came along, like I got sick, my mom got sick, and I was like, yeah, this planning stuff is dumb because ain't nothing working out how I planned.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kind of is crazy when you do have to redirect. It can sometimes just stop motion. You know,
Absolutely.
because if you think that things are supposed, especially when we're so used to hearing of things working in one direction for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people go to high school, and then after high school they go to college, and then after that they get married and whatever. And it usually is like an order in which things go for most people. And the moment
Mm-hmm.
you get thrown off of that path, even if it's not necessarily what you have planned for yourself, you see it as like, okay, I'm already off the beaten path. Like, what am I supposed to do now?
Yep. I 100%, I definitely agree. Because like I said, like so I just a little bit. So like 2016 was the first time my mom got sick, and so I was supposed to go home for a few months to just check on her. She had open heart surgery. She ended up having complications. I stayed home for 3 months. And by the time I got ready to move back to Baltimore, like November, she got diagnosed with cancer in December. So I was like, damn, geez. So I was like, all right, well, I got to move back to Ohio, like, because I'm an only child. My mom doesn't have a lot of family. And so then I moved back to Ohio for a few years, and then I was like, great, I got a boyfriend. My mom is in remission. Fast forward, she was diagnosed with a different type of cancer. The relationship was going south, and my mom passed away. I was like, okay, my mom's passed away, so that's one thing less that I have to take care of. I took it as a badge of honor to take care of my mom until she passed, but it was also like, whew, that's one less thing I got to take care of. So then I moved back to Baltimore. Relationship failed, broke up, and then I got diagnosed with cancer. I was like, God damn, God,
Right,
God damn. So I'm like, this is not. None of this is on my bingo card. I ain't playing
right,
for none of this. So I feel like it got so far derailed. I was like, you know what, I'm done. Like I like mentally, I'm done. I'm checked out. Like I finished my degree just so my mom could see me walk across the stage. Um, and I didn't really have a plan after that. I was like, I don't know. Like, there's no point in planning because I don't know what's gonna happen.
right.
Luckily, my mom got to see me walk across the stage as her only child, but I was just like, every game plan I put in place, something else derails it.
Mm.
So, so I definitely get that whole trajectory, that trajectory really hit me hard when I had to have the hysterectomy because I was like, man, I went in that order. I was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to get married and have kids. I'm like, if I was out here living my best grown up life, being free, I could have
Mm-hmm.
had a kid, and then fast forward down the road, had the hysterectomy. I was like, but nope, I was dead set. I went to high school, went to college, got my degrees, got my job, got a fiance. I'm gonna do it all in the right order. But then now at 43, I'm like, we need to stop telling people that that's the right order because that's not the right order for everybody. We also need to stop telling people what a family looks like. You can build your family however you feel is best for you. You don't have to go in that traditional model because that might not work for you. It's okay to tell a woman, hey, you want to have a child, you can do it by yourself. It's going to be difficult, but you can. But we are so used to that whole, you got to go in this order. And people sometimes miss out on life because something happens later on and then they went in that order, and then the order gets thrown out the window because one life occurrence or several life occurrences, and you're like, well, dang, I went in that order for nothing.
Right. And I think that it also puts pressure on people to do things a certain way, even if maybe it's not truly their heart's desire.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
because for me, I know that I guess it's a little unorthodox, but I've never wanted to have children.
yeah,
Like it's never. I mean, I remember having like little murmurs, seeing like somebody with a baby or like a kid does something cute on the internet, but like the feeling will pass just as fast as I saw it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And a lot of people will say things to me like, "Well, Rich, I think you'd be a great dad." And I'm like, I'd probably also be a stellar crackhead, but that doesn't mean I should go out here and start doing crack. You know what I mean?
Ooh, I do.
So it's really like it's we should let people determine their future without questioning.
Absolutely.
But I mean, like if someone says they don't want to do something, they don't want to go to college. I mean, now college may be a little different because when you're younger, it's harder for you to kind of bang down on those kind of decisions. When you're
Yeah,
17, 18 years old, you don't really know much about the world, how it works. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So then, yeah, maybe question like, why don't you want to go to college, whatever, like that. But like when someone's in their 20s, 30s, and they say, I don't want to get married or I don't want to, whatever, let that be what it is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I definitely agree. I definitely agree because I'll tell people in a heartbeat, I have several degrees, but I will never tell a kid that like college is the be all because I know it's not for everybody. Just like when I tell people like, oh, you have advanced degrees. Yes. And I understand it's not for everybody. I'm a nerd. That's what I wanted to do. But I'm not going to look down on you or say anything crazy because you don't. And I'm not going to tell a kid or a student like, hey, you need to go to college. If that's not your life's ambitions, there's other things you can do to be successful and really just qualifying success on your own terms and not what everybody else deems as successful. Because people are like, oh, you said a student's that? I do. You're not about to have my students in debt when they don't need to be or going to college just because somebody told them to and then they hate it.
Right.
And then they're still unsuccessful.
Exactly. So we talked about when you feel, the spaces where you feel arrested in.
Yep.
What would you say, or what advice would you give? Now, this could be advice to yourself maybe a year or two ago, or
Mhm.
advice to someone else who may be struggling with that feeling of being arrested. How would you help them to move past that?
One of the first things I would tell them is it's okay to feel that you are not where you want to be. It's okay to feel that your life isn't where you thought it would be because you're still here. I would also tell them if you have the opportunity, speak to a therapist because there's a lot of things that we think about ourselves and negative or and sometimes positive self-talk, but having that other person who's not biased, who just is there to listen and kind of you bounce your information off of them is very helpful. Also, I would tell if I had to talk to myself 2 years ago, I would say continue to do what brings you joy. Even in the moments when you feel like you are at your weakest, you're at your breaking point, do something that makes you happy. Even if it's not anything anybody else will do with you, even if it's not something anybody else will understand, if it is going to bring you smiles, make you think less about whatever craziness is going on in your world, continue to do it and do it often. And just make sure that that's part of your intentional self-care and just understanding self-care is anything. It doesn't have to be monetary. It doesn't have to be you going to a spa, getting your nails done. It's anything that can bring you happiness and joy in that moment. Anything that makes you feel better or makes you smile and just be mindful of that. Because I think often when we're going through things, it's so easy to be like, this is going on. I got to get through this. I got to get through this and not think about, hey, let me intentionally do something that's going to bring me joy today. Let me get out the house and, do X, Y, and Z because that's fun. Or and like I said, it doesn't have to be anything expensive. Like I luckily live not too far from a little beach. So water is my happy place. So I'll go sit over there. It's free. I can sit by the water. I can journal. I can just have a moment where I'm just by myself in the world, and at peace. And, I know eventually I'm gonna have to go home, and some of those thoughts will creep back in my head. But in those moments, I am free to be happy and exist and not have to worry about all those negative things or whatever negative is going on in my life in that moment.
That's nice. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking this time and talking to me today. I really, really greatly appreciate you.
Absolutely. I'm glad I was able to be a part of this. As soon as I saw it, I was like, this is kind of what I've been dealing with for the past few months, just kind of like feeling like I'm wandering without having a clue what I'm wandering for. Within today kind of hit it on the head. I'm wandering for a path in life. But I wish you so much success. I'm excited to see how your project turns out. And I am just so happy that this is such a great opportunity and platform for the great art that you put into the world.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
You are welcome.
Yeah, we're gonna as I begin and finish creating a lot of the pieces, I'll be sending everyone photos so you guys will get to see it. And then I think when we do the artist talk at the museum,
Okay.
it'll be live streamed, I think.
Okay.
So I'll give everybody all the updates on that as it comes. But you'll definitely by the 7th be able to see the actual exhibit when it's finished and we put it all together. Okay. So I'm excited for everyone to see that.
I'm excited too. I'm so excited. Well, thank you for this opportunity, Rich.
No problem. I will see you around.
I will absolutely. Have a good turkey day.
Oh, you too.
All right.
Bye.